Hello. Hi. Good evening, everyone. I'm Morgan Boyle, Manager of Adult Programming at the New York Public Library. I'm thrilled to welcome everyone to the Stavros Niarchos Foundation Library and to this beautiful space overlooking Fifth Avenue. The library and WNYC launched this partnership in 2020, and since then it has been a wonderful opportunity for New Yorkers to come together and share their love of reading. While you're all here, I hope you'll get a library card, check out a few books, or learn more about the other programs we have in this space and throughout this building. We'd love to see you again. And don't forget to stop by our check-in desk after the program, fill out a short audience survey, and get a free prize. Everyone loves free swag. For those watching virtually, I welcome you as well and hope you have an opportunity to visit us soon. Come check out everything NYPL has going on this winter, including programs and classes for all ages, exhibition, and more, all for free. Visit nypl.org or sign up for our newsletter to stay up to date on everything the library is doing. Now, I know you're all excited to get started. Tonight we welcome author Richard Price, author of this month's selection, Lazarus Man, a bravura portrait of a community on the edge of disintegration, rich with indelible characters and high drama, making it a riveting work of suspense and social vision by one of our greatest writers. Unfortunately, Lakeisha Benjamin is not able to make it tonight, but we're fortunate enough to have the incredibly talented Anthony Hervey joining us for a special performance. I want to thank Allison Stewart and the WNYC team for being such amazing partners on the book club. We hope you enjoy tonight's program.
Hey, thanks for coming up. Richard Price, come on down. Just so you know, Richard Price, everybody. Just so you know, you're going to be on the radio. That's what those microphones are for, so let us know you're here. At about 20 minutes, we'll go to the audience for some questions. Let's get started. Richard Price has spent his career capturing snapshots of New York City in novels like The Wanderers, Lush Life, and now Lazarus Man. He's also a prolific screenwriter, from The Wire to The Color of Money. Thanks to our partners at the New York Public Library, 3,273 of you were able to check out a copy of Lazarus Man to read along with us. Please welcome Richard Price.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if I'm on mic.
Are you
Am I
on?
on mic? Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Is this?
Sound good?
Yeah, I'm just.
You need
I'm
to pull?
casually like this.
You want to pull a little closer? There you go.
No.
All right. You told us, you came on the show earlier this month, and you said that there was a building collapse that was near where you lived. And you told us you spent a day just watching. What were you watching for?
It's just, oh, by the way, if anybody's heard me before, at this point of like talking, I tend to say the same quips. So I'm aware of it. I'm not a phony. I lived on I do live on 129th, and the building collapses on 116th, 2 blocks east, and the boom, it just went right through my body. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I just went there. And the building already had collapsed. It couldn't get too close, but I spent a couple of hours just watching the crowds. And, that whole municipal block party, EMS and FDNY and ABC and DCE and it was just listening to people and watching, how people moved, and they would do this thing, like you couldn't see what you're doing because of the rise of, I want to say detritus, but, just the ash that was coming up. But people had their phones out like this, it's like they were hailing a cab. Yeah. And by reflex, everybody with a cell phone's a photojournalist. But by reflex, because we do this now, they were going like this, like a searchlight, looking for an image. Just small things. I just focus on small things. And after that day, I found a video that somebody took. tracked down the guy who made the video. He lived right across the street. And he was an EMT, but he wasn't working that day. And I just got his eyewitness. Then I went to the cops. What was their experience that day? I just went to anybody who would have me, which is my usual MO.
Did you have your author hat on at that point?
Not really, but I told him I'm writing a novel, and I am a card-carrying novelist. So it wasn't like, I'm thinking about writing my first book, you know. So, you know, that, but I also had friends that, you know, there was a couple of cops I knew. One of them was supervising looking for people that they could, you know, you have a building like that, it's, maybe you have 12 apartments and the rent rolls say there are 30 people or 40 people. But a lot of people, you don't know who else was in that building. You don't know who left before. You don't know if, you know, they had their daughter and granddaughter sleeping over because the daughter had a fight with her husband or boyfriend or whatever. Somebody, the person on the rent rolls actually died 3 years earlier, but they didn't want to tell the landlord, and all their relatives moved in. You don't know who was there. It's like ghost tenants, I call it. It's like double the number on the rolls. And now you got to find all these people. And you look at all CCTV cameras. Okay, you see people leaving the building beforehand, but then you see people going in right before. They're not coming out. And just the whole
thing?
How a neighborhood, I wouldn't say the neighborhood disintegrated. I don't know who wrote that, but maybe if it was more disintegrating, it would be a bigger bestseller. But it was just how a neighborhood copes, how people cope.
Why did you want to set it in 2008?
That's a good question. I didn't want to deal with a lot of the political moments of the moment. I didn't want to deal, I didn't want to write about Obama. I didn't want to write about Trump. I didn't want to write about Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter. And 2008 was the year that I moved to Harlem, so. And the Harlem that was is no longer, the Harlem that I saw in 2008 is no longer there. It was just a time, it's just by instinct. I just didn't want to deal with politics. I didn't want to, you know, deal with, you know, current events. I didn't want to be a newspaper.
I see you standing there, Ed, our fine editor, Ed. And that's it, everybody. Come on, let's give it a hand.
It's straight, at least a dead ringer for my cousin. On the good side of the family.
Aw. You told me that when you moved to Harlem in 2008, that you felt like you had a lot to learn. What did you feel you had to learn about the neighborhood?
Every time, New York City, if you move 5 blocks, you're in a different city. I forgot who told me this, but they said, or I read it in the papers, somebody said they moved literally 5 blocks away from where they lived, and after about a month, they came back to that 5-block area because they needed to use the laundromat, and somebody said, "You're back!" You know, I mean, it's like this. Well, whose New York City is it? Is it Louis Auchincloss's New York City? Is it my New York City? Is it Spike Lee's New York City? Is it Whit Stillman's New York City? I mean, there's a billion New York cities. And yeah, so I moved to Harlem, and it's like I moved to the city of Harlem, where I'd never lived before.
What about the city of Harlem did you know that you had to get right in Lazarus Man?
Oh, well, yeah, everything. I mean, not everything. It just, well, one big difference, in all the other places I've lived in Manhattan, you're on the street, somebody's coming the other way, you don't make eye contact. In Harlem, you make eye contact, you nod your head, hello. Somebody talks to you, you speak back. It's rude, you know, you're passing somebody. I just remember the first day that we moved in on 118th Street in Lenox. I was walking, to the end of the block to cross the street, and there was a woman there, and she had a walker, and she was there every day. And being like from different neighborhoods, I didn't look at her. And this woman, right after we passed, she said, "Good morning," you're supposed to say. And I just elevated. "Oh, good morning, how are you? Can I marry you?" Or what? I had to learn manners. Oddly enough, people think of Harlem as like rough, or its reputation is rough. But I had to learn manners. I had to. This is the most engaging neighborhood I've ever lived in terms of eye contact and people's being willing. It's like Dublin. You just say hi, and they tell you the story of the Iliad in Gaelic. You talk to people on the street. It's different.
With a head nod, at least.
It's absolutely. You are on the street. They're on the street. You engage.
Yeah.
This isn't Gramercy Park. This isn't even the West Village. This isn't Dumbo, Soho, Moho. I walk from my house across the street to get a carton of milk. I come back with 6 scenes for a play.
The 4 characters in the book, Anthony, Mary, Felix, and Royal. Who was the hardest to write?
Anthony. I don't know how to answer this quickly without telling people who each is. The 4 characters. One guy's a funeral director. That's funeral director is failing because people are not dying to get in. One woman is a community affairs officer based in East Harlem, who's there, to talk to people and work with missing persons. One guy is a photographer who lives right across the street. Is a kid from upstate New York. And the 4th character, Anthony, who it gets trapped in this in the collapse, and like 2 days later, after the cadaver dogs have been through, and everybody went over that rubble with a fine-tooth comb and a telescope, and periscope, microscope, stethoscope. All of a sudden, they find him, and it's a miracle. And it's about what's going on in his mind after he's found. And I don't want to say any more, because
We'll save it for the end.
he's the agita guy. He's, angel and devil shoulders.
What was your process on deciding when to switch between each character's point of view?
I just developed a rhythm of Spike Lee's was interested in the rights to the film rights to this book. And I could see it because, in Do the Right Thing, it was it's an ensemble. It is no hero. There's no, it's just people living, and you're shifting from one character to another character, also like a Robert Altman film. Like Nashville or MASH, you're just constantly shifting. Everybody's like ships passing in the night. And, I got to a point, I just kept people abreast of things. They don't know each other, or they marginally know each other, or they get to know each other, or they barely interact, but it's 4 perspectives, and each person's story kind of climbs in parallels. And I like to just go back and forth a lot. That being said, one of the things that I hate is when I get reviews, they say, well, his screenwriter skills were at play. I was writing like this. I wrote 4 books before I wrote my first screenplay. It's like, no, that's me. It's not what I've learned as a screenwriter. That's how I like to write. It goes fast.
Let's talk about Mary. She's a cop. She works in the public information office. What did you want to explore about the relationship between cops and the neighborhood, and specifically through Mary?
Well, Mary got her job. It's weird. She's a detective. She was fine, but she has a phobia about crossing state lines. So in a patrol car, she's fine, but as a detective, if you got to go to New Jersey to pick up a witness, or Pennsylvania, to pick up a suspect, she freezes. She can't go. So what they call her rabbi, which is her mentor, figured out he's going to assign her to community affairs. You just go where people get pissed off and there's danger of things escalating. And that's her job. It's to, people know her. She knows people. She knows the neighborhood. She's Irish. She doesn't differentiate between races of people. Her job, she never makes things worse. And her job basically is to calm people down. And she gets paid for that.
We get a little taste of her personal life, and she and her husband, who she separated from, and he confides in her that the kids think that she is afraid of them.
Well, she never wanted to have kids, but I'm supposed to have kids because I'm a woman, and she's from an old-fashioned background. Like she says, there's nothing wrong with a kid getting punched as long as he punches back, because you will have no confidence until you get hit and you stand up and you hit back, whether you lose. And she also feels like there's nothing wrong with a boy coming to a girl's door with a corsage. She's old school. She's very old school, but she's like early 40s. She and her husband are going through a kind of half-assed divorce through mediation. And what they decided to do is they have a house, but neither of them can afford another house. So they decided to split the house. So, tonight is my night to be with the kids in the kitchen. Tonight is my night to watch The Sopranos in the living room. And it just falls apart. And the kids are freaking out because they're watching their parents pretend, for quote unquote their sake, that everything's fine, and the kids finally flip out and says, "One of you's got to leave." They were like 11 and 12. And then Mary, because she's so freaked out, she says to the kid, "Which one?" You can't ask me that. And what they go back, the marriage counselor says, "Well, there's this thing called a nesting apartment, where they get a cheap apartment, one-bedroom apartment. 3 days you're in there, 3 days I'm in there. We just keep packing up mini suitcases, and if it's Tuesday, it must be the nesting apartment, and I mean, the whole thing is a mess, but I just wanted to write about a cop where it's not like copy,
Yeah.
not like tough street wisdom or capturing somebody or chasing somebody. I mean, God forbid, somebody even touches their gun. It's about as domestic as I can make a cop in any book I've ever written, because I don't want to be called a crime writer ever.
Yeah. Why not?
Because the thing about genres is they have a formula. And so in genres, there's nothing wrong with genres. There's fantastic writers in every genre. But in a certain type of book, this happens, and this happens, and this happens. And it's a pattern that's mostly obeyed, and it's like, it's not enough, I mean, look at Dashiell Hammett or Raymond Chandler or Octavia Butler in science fiction. I mean, a lot of people feel like genres are bullshit because, it's literature. But it feels to me like a cubbyhole.
Felix, why did you want to make Felix a photographer?
Because I love street photography, and he's this upstate kid, and he's living in a brownstone. Back in the day, this is another reason why I made it 2008. Back in the day, these brownstones were cut up into like mini apartments, and like the brownstone next to mine, when I moved in, there was like 10 guys living there. They each had like a kitchenette, and they hung out. And then all of a sudden, real estate wants what it wants, and one by one, it was the last time like a brownstone was used like that, when you can get so much money if you get them out of there and sort of rejig this place. And he knows that these guys who live in the building with him, I mean, most of them are gray market people, like burning CDs if somebody, or somebody dies in the culture, but by the next day they're selling T-shirts on the street. Michael Jackson with angel wings, and they're hustlers. They're hustlers. They're not illegals. They're just in the gray market. You got to be inventive to survive. And it was a snapshot at the end of an era of a community and a building. It's hard to find a building like that.
What photographers do you like? Do you like Ouija? Do you like Elliot
Well,
Erwitt?
yeah, Ouija's the cliche, but I love Ouija. I love me some Ouija.
Ouija.
Yeah, but oh god,
Rita
there's so
Carava.
many. It's like when I was in 11th grade, my quote unquote guidance counselor making a profile of me said, "What was the last book you read?" And I read so voraciously that I said, "Native Son" by Richard Wright. And she wrote it down. It was one of 50 books. The next year, as a senior, she said, "What was the last book that you read?" I said, "Native Son." And she said, "You're a liar. You said that last year." I said, "Oh, get a life. How long do you have to live?" I'll give you an hour. But anyways, it was like that. You asked me a question, like, who's your favorite photographer? I mean, there's so many different types of photographers. Bruce Davidson, the German portraitist, August Sander. I always mess up his name. I want to say Mickey Moto. He's a Japanese photographer who does 24-hour exposed light on a theater screen or on an ocean. Sugimoto. Jesus. I was going to say Mickey Moto. Oh, no. Oh, that's the guy that sells pearls. I'm Malik Sibideh, who was a Malian, society portraitist, had worked out of a studio. James Vanderzee. This guy, Joseph Rodriguez, who did all these shots. He was driving a cab at 4:40 in the morning in the late 80s. He would go past when the leather bars were closing down and the drag bars were closing down. He would do portraits of the people hailing him.
Cool.
And he didn't get his head handed to him.
There you go.
And my favorite photographer is Richard Wright, who photographed Native Son.
Let's talk about royal and funeral directors. There's a lot of great, graphic, sometimes funny details about being a funeral director. What research did you do into it? What did you learn?
I hung out with black funeral directors in Harlem, traditional funeral directors, and got a feel. Some guys were more inviting me into their world. And, other people were very paranoid or protective, like, who is this guy? He says he's writing a book. What do I know? He might be working for the health department. I got pretty friendly with a couple of guys. And, I believe in osmosis. I believe in, the thing is, when the boilerplate thing you learn in a creative writing class is write about what you know. But what do you know when you're young? And that would be, Thomas McGuane. This is things I always say. Thomas McGuane said, "I've done a lot of horrible things in my life, but I never taught creative writing." Well, I did. I lost my train of thought. What was the question again?
I just asked you what you learned from funeral directors.
So what I learned, my first 4 books, I wrote myself into a corner because it was all self-referential. every character was a stand-in for me. So, hey, guess what? I'm 30 and I got 4 novels out, and you know, my experience is like elephant ears, you know, leaving a casino bust, and that's why I went to do screenplays for 8 years, just to cleanse my palate. And I had enough grapefruit sorbet, and I came back, and when Clockers happened, I saw a housing project in Jersey City that was built at the same time, but this is the height of the crack epidemic, and it was like a tiger cage, and it freaked me out. And I had my own drug problems in the past, and all of a sudden, I wanted to learn. So, write about what you know. I don't know that much. Well, go out. What are you interested in? Go out, hang out, learn that, and that becomes part of what you know. What else? What else? What else? What else? You know, it's like, I always say, it's like trying to empty the ocean with a colander. You know, it's like, there's a whole world out there, you know. It's not about, you know, seeing your parents at Thanksgiving and, you know, being happy, but by the second day you were in a rage, and the third day your girlfriend dumped you, and then you couldn't wait to get back to the dorms. I mean, that's the story. I got 40 stories like that.
All right, we're gonna, in a few minutes, I'm gonna start taking questions from the audience. All right, we're at Anthony. There's so much we can discuss about Anthony. He gets pulled out of the rubble. He finds he's really good at speaking to people,
It really feels like he's been reborn. You know,
Does he believe what he's saying?
Read the book.
I did twice, so there. What do you think? What do you think?
What do I think? Does he believe what he's
Yeah.
saying? I think he believes what he's saying, but that doesn't mean everything is true.
Very interesting. Why are people so moved by his words, even if someone might consider his words trite?
Well, you know, some of the reviews, I thought what I wrote for him to say, he becomes sort of like a motivational speaker, and he speaks at funerals, and he speaks at Stop the Violence rallies. And I thought I wrote beautiful speeches for him, and then the reviews came out. He says, well, there's a genius, because Price purposefully put all these trite blah blahs in there. What are you talking about? I brought myself to tears. You know, trite? You're trite. Where's your novel?
Let's take some audience questions. Let me see if I've got. There we go. I see a gentleman in the back.
There's a hand in the back there on the right.
I
Far back.
do.
Up. Many
And
hands.
he's got a microphone.
Taxi.
There we are. Hello, sir.
I used to be a school teacher. I don't need a microphone. I don't think. Can you talk a little bit about the beauty and the danger of run-on sentences?
No.
Period.
I mean, my first,
Perfect answer.
like my first paragraph is one sentence, and I didn't realize it was one sentence. You know, because it just kept coming to me. Go on. Throw a semicolon in there. Or wait. Colon. Oh no, comma. What? You know, and it just kept going. And I'm not saying it was. I don't want to be romantic about it or magical about it, but I wasn't purposefully trying for a run-on style. It just happened because it's like my mind is a run-on sentence.
All right. I see Simon back there.
Great. Thank you. You create these, I'm going to call them peripheral characters
I'm
that
sorry, I can't hear.
Having a little
you
trouble here.
create these characters, like what I would call peripheral characters. And
What kind of
peripheral? Yeah, that,
political or
no, peripheral.
what?
Peripheral?
Tickle your
Or-
ass for
Yeah,
what?
on the side. And
Okay, peripheral
yeah,
characters,
they
okay.
they don't necessarily move the story, but they color the narrative, like Ellis and Tony G, the guy on the stoop, and I'm wondering, do they come to you like in whole cloth because you give these vivid descriptions of them?
You know, first of all, in a way, almost every character is peripheral. I mean, because there are 4 key characters that you follow, but I mean, the whole book is matter of fact, you know. And in the process of writing, okay, Felix lives in a building, one of the last kitchenette SROs in that section of Harlem. I mean, all of a sudden these guys are on the stoop, and once again, and they're talking. And but the thing with peripheral characters, just don't put them in once, because then it feels really like peripheral. I mean, return to them. Like there's a woman who claims to be Prince's mother holding court on a street. I mean, I had to come back to her, and the second time I came back to her, it's the same lady, but now she's claiming to be Senator Obama's sister. I mean, just peripheral is twice for me. But also the characters. I mean, give them as much life as you can for the brief time that they're on the stage.
And over here.
Thanks so much. I wanted to ask about, it seems like all four characters struggle throughout the book with their romantic relationships in different ways, and they're kind of collapsing and rebuilding. And even Felix has this very short relationship with this woman he kind of meets casually. So I wanted to know what that was kind of a theme throughout the book, and I wondered if you could talk more about that decision and what that represented in the book.
Well, it's like if Mary is struggling, she's having an affair with another cop, but she's kind of half living with her soon-to-be divorced husband. Then I thought I wanted Anthony, when he gets out, good things start happening to him. And he meets this woman who listens, hears, and all of a sudden he goes, well, then I start thinking, well, what's Felix up to? I mean, sometimes these things just evolve on the page. I mean, it's not magic, like I said, but one character's spending a night with another person begets, like, is rondelay the right word? All four of them are doing stuff that night with other people, of a not exact nature, but similar nature. It just evolves like that. It's like Bebop. I mean, it sounds like scatter, but there is pattern beneath the scatter.
Got a question here?
I can just yell it out.
She's coming. She's save it for radio. There you go.
Sorry. Yeah, sure. Hey. Oh, thanks. Sorry about that. One thing I haven't seen in your work earlier to this extent is, this comes from like the write what you know or research what you don't know. So many really funny, sad, human, bad sex scenes or scenes of people sort of trying and deciding not to have sex. Just the negotiations around sex were just, I don't think I've ever seen it that real and that like hilarious and tragic comic frequently. And I was wondering, you can't like ask people about, I don't know, like where's the,
Where does the
Have I had
awkwardness
ever
in
trouble
sex?
getting laid? Is that what you're saying?
is this just stuff you pick up as you age or like, do you?
No, I mean, listen, what is this, the National Enquirer? No, I mean, listen, you live long enough, you've been in all kinds of scenarios. It's not like I have to go out and Google bad sex or great sex or like stop-start sex or almost sex or did I have a good time last night? Sex. It's just life, and you just, listen, I'm 30 years old now and I've lived a long life. And listen, the more life you live, the more you know, just by osmosis. You don't even have to think about it. It's all in your head. And what you forget is not that important.
We've got time probably for one or two more questions.
This lady over here.
I think she's going to go there, and then we'll get you next.
Sorry, Green.
Can you talk a little bit about Anthony's father?
I'm sorry, say again?
Can you talk a little bit about Anthony's father and his role in the novel?
Oh, can I talk about Anthony Carter? He's, like I said, he's in his early 40s. And of a mixed marriage. His mother's from black funeral home money in the South. His father is an Irish-Italian, pugnacious race warrior. Like, he's the guy that wants credit for getting punched by a cop or hit by a cop at a rally. He's the loud liberator of a race that's not his. All of which is to say, no matter, like I said, no matter how many rallies you show up, no matter how many fists you raise in solidarity or how many creative writing classes you teach in prison, you're white. When the car gets stopped, you're white. You cannot be black by connection. Just because you have mixed race kids and a black wife does not make you anything but white. You might know more than the average bear for Caucasian, but because of your experience, but you're white. Oh, by the way, he teaches African American history at
Of course.
at like Dalton.
Oh, that hurt. All right, this is the spoiler alert. For how many people have read the book in here? Oh, good, yes. Okay, this is spoiler
Thank you.
alert for folks who haven't read the book. Anthony, who has been rescued from this building miraculously after days, was not in the building. No.
Thanks a lot.
I said spoiler alert.
It's like I was in a relationship with somebody who didn't know how to tell a joke, and so she would say to me, "Can you tell the joke which ends with the guy saying?"
Just doing my job, man. Just doing my job.
You're a destroyer. Okay, what was the question?
Oh, I
the
don't
cat's
know.
out of
I
the
don't even
bag.
remember
No,
anymore.
come on. Okay. Okay, so Anthony was not
Yeah.
in the building, and what do you want me?
He went back.
What's the rest
he
of
went
it?
back into the building. Why did he do that?
Well, first of all, he was blown sideways when the building collapsed. He was right in front of it, and he was in shock. He was walking around covered in ash like a shaman, and he was going to get a job at a big and tall men's clothing store, and his life. He lost his wife and his stepdaughter. He returned to a cocaine habit. His whole life was going down the toilet, and it was a big deal. All of a sudden, it's like he gets blown away. And he has very vague memories of, he didn't go back, he didn't have a thought like, I know what I'm going to do. He got pushed in when all the neighbors ran into the building rubble with the cops trying to find people. And he got pushed along. He was in a daze. And he just sat down, and he just sat there, and he said, I don't want to go back out there anymore. I don't want to put one foot in front of another, see what happens. And he just decided, he just crawled into a hole. And, but the last thing in the world he wanted was to be discovered. And it's like, if you have a tiger by the tail, does the tiger have you, or do you have the tiger? And all of a sudden, he's a celebrity. Oh, shit. What do I say? No, see what happened. It's in the papers. And, also he feels renewed. He feels like he's been resurrected, Lazarus. And all of a sudden people want to hear him. People admire him. People hang on his words. People think he's an inspiration. Nobody has become a somebody. And the gratitude he feels for this renewed Anthony goes into the earnestness of his speeches, because he says God did this, God did that, but these are the people that have really breathed life. Anyway, did life in him, and he just wants to return goodness with goodness, and he gets in over his head.
Ladies and gentlemen, Richard Price.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, you ready for some music? Anthony Hervey is a trumpet player and a composer based in Harlem. Wynton Marsalis has said of him that he's a beautiful trumpet player of the first magnitude. Please welcome him to the stage for a performance.
That's Will Hill on the piano.
Yes, Will Hill. Hello. So
Hey.
this month's book takes place in Harlem.
Yes.
You live in Harlem by
Yes.
way of Florida. How did you arrive in Harlem?
Well, I moved up to New York City for school, so I was at Juilliard, and a lot of musicians actually live uptown, so it was kind of a place that I naturally gravitated towards.
Tell me something that lets me know you live in Harlem.
Melba's.
Ah, nice, nice. You know, obviously jazz has an important history in Harlem. When you want to go see jazz, where do you go?
Ooh, there's so many places in the city. We're kind of spoiled. I do a lot of stuff at Jazz and Lincoln Center. They have a lot of venues there, so I'm always at Dizzy's Club checking out music. Last night I was at Smalls in the Village playing.
Nice.
So, you know, we're blessed. That's all I can say.
You grew up in Florida.
Yes.
Did you come from a musical family?
In a way, yeah. All my siblings played saxophone, so I'm the only one who played trumpet. There's four of us.
You're the only. How did you come on the trumpet if everybody else is playing saxophone?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, my mom, her grandfather played trumpet. He passed before I was born, so I never met him. But I guess the memory of him playing was like something that she always had in the back of her mind. So I had to pick an elective for middle school. And I wanted to play basketball, and my mom was like, okay, you need an elective, though. You're short. I don't know if you're going to be Kobe or LeBron James. So, yeah, she made me play trumpet, and
Yeah.
I reluctantly agreed to do so. But I didn't know it was going to be something that I fell in love with. And, hey, we're here now.
Yeah. So when did you realize, wow, this is something I could do? This is something I could do professionally?
Well, I tried out for the basketball team at my middle school, and I didn't make it. And so I was devastated. I was like, you know, if I can't make my middle school team, it might be over for me. So, but I remember I was watching TV. I was in 6th grade, and I was watching this documentary on Blue Note Records. And as soon as I clicked on the channel, this clip of Freddie Hubbard came on TV. And Freddie is one of the most incredible trumpet players to ever live. And I had never heard somebody play trumpet like that. It's like watching Kobe Bryant play basketball or something. And I only heard him play for like 20 seconds. And that 20 seconds of him playing is literally why I'm in New York City.
Wow. Wow.
So.
During your time at Juilliard, what did it teach you about music?
My time at Juilliard, what did it teach me about music? Well, I feel like I grew in a lot of ways being at Juilliard. Just being in New York City by myself, you know, as a young person, I feel like that's kind of where I grew into an adult. And I was really fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of incredible musicians at the
Yeah.
school. And so I feel like we all kind of collectively grew together, you know, just being in school and then hitting sessions late at night and then getting like 3 hours of sleep before 9 a.m. classes. And then to see what everybody's doing now, you know, it's, you know, we all have been working hard.
I read about you that you write poetry, and then you take the rhythm of your poems and you turn them into songs. How does that work?
Well, my poetry skills are not that good, but I do write sometimes. But I feel like I'm very inspired by words. Like even the first song that we played was called Words from My Horn, which is the title of my debut record. And so I take a lot of inspiration from like poets. So I actually have a song, Crystal Stare, that I've written, which is inspired by the words of Langston Hughes, his poem Mother to Son, you know, life ain't been no crystal stair. So sometimes I'll take little things like that and put it in my music.
As you said, you released your debut album in 2023. What's next?
Ooh, that's it. Well, I'm actually in the process of working on my second album, so I'm really excited for that. It's still in the development phase, so I don't like to rush my process. So I've been writing a lot of new music, so definitely by the summer I'm planning on recording, so I'm pretty excited.
What are we going to hear next?
Ooh. Well, we're going to do a song by Hoagie Carmichael. He's one of my favorite composers, and this is a beautiful song. We got Valentine's Day around the corner, too. But this is The Nearness of You.
All right, let's go. Thank you to Anthony Hervey for that great performance, and Will Hill as well. And thank you to our author, Richard Price, who'll be signing books in the lobby. There are copies on sale. But first, I have to thank very much our partners, the New York Public Library, for hosting us here and providing all the e-copies. Thank you to everyone from Park Boulevard for helping us run the show and stream it live for our online virtual viewers. And thank you to the WNYC producers and engineers who helped run this event. Okay, it is time to announce our February book. I am very excited to announce that we will be reading Black in Blues, How a Color Tells the Story of My People by Amani Perry. The book explores the relationship between Black Americans and the color blue, from the relationship between Indigo Guy to the slave trade to rhythm and blues music. Imani will be joining us right back here for an event on February 26th. So mark your calendars, and we'll see you back here in the month. Everybody get home safe.